We're going up, up, up to the Upper Marae, where stories lift and voices fly. Put your tea towels down, let your worries fade. Open the gates, let the memories cascade. In this podcast world, we give it our best. So grab your cup or come say hi, no jest. We're going up to the Upper Marae, where conversations flow and spirits can't lie.
So hello Whānau, I'm Dr. Alexander Stevens II. I am what you call an interdisciplinary expert. In other words, I have 7 different specialties. Just Google me, I guess is the best way to say it. And alongside 7 different specialties, I also focus on financial capability.
Which is today's topic.
It is. But you first, Sione.
Yes, I am Sione.
You are now a drug and alcohol counsellor officially.
Oh, yes, we haven't mentioned it.
Well, it has been, 5 or 6 weeks since our last podcast?
Really?
Yep.
I thought it was literally last year.
Has it been that long?
I thought it's been. I don't remember. Maybe we did do one earlier this year. But anyways, yes.
Maybe I've been slightly distracted, but yeah. And I was thinking the other benefit of this podcast is not only well-being, is that every podcast that we do, we can also get points towards our registration.
Oh, they count us?
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Right.
Well, put it this way, they will be counting it for our DAPNs, our drug and alcohol practitioners
all right,
registration. Yeah. So anyway, it's good to see you.
Yes, likewise. Shall we begin?
Yes.
So the questions we are going to reflect on today is, what inspired you to get into well-being and wellness?
2 things. I wanted an easy job and lots of money. and I came to the wrong career. Actually, to be honest with you, I enjoy working with people. I enjoy working with individuals who struggle. I think all of us struggle at some point in our lives, and for some individuals, they struggle more than others. Right? Or resilience. They bounce back from resilience for some reason is different. So we talk a lot about vicious cycles where people spiral down. I'm interested in victorious cycles. So it's the opposite. How do we spin people up
towards recovery?
Yeah, and wellness. But also, I'm not interested in what I call toxic positivity either. I don't think that we should always be happy, and I don't think we should always be positive. For me, it's about a neutral balance. How do we get to a space where we can enjoy both aspects, of light as well as dark? Because actually, we need, both to be able to function.
This toxic positivity here, where's this from? Because I think I'm just in the shadows here. Can you?
Well, let me pull you out.
Yeah,
We're halfway there. The toxic positivity is a term that talks about this kind of fascination and need to always be positive.
Oh, like
and upbeat, and everything is all right.
It's an image.
Yeah, and everything's okay. I mean, we see a lot of it in social media.
Oh, right.
Where people only post the best about themselves.
Yeah.
However, the nature of life doesn't work like that. We get setbacks, we get hit hard. And so in that case, actually, I'm much more a realist. So, when things are good, like say from a seasonal or a tidal perspective, I talk about this all the time. When the tide comes in, let's enjoy the moments, but at some point the tides will come out. And when the tides come out, what do we do to create, resources and tools and things that we can draw from our kitties to enable us to find a way forward?
But wasn't there a phrase that said it's okay not to be okay?
Yeah.
And where did we go from there?
Yeah, well,
psych.
That's part of the challenge that we face, you and me, as health professionals, especially people that are in different stages of unwellness. I'm thinking depression, anxiety. So how do we stretch people out a little bit to get them on where they need to go? Yeah. So yeah. But I guess circling back, what inspired me into health? Look, the other thing was just recognize that our Māori and Pacific lifespans aren't as long as they, our Pākehā or Tauiwi counterparts. And we get hit hard with different things, but how do we do, yeah, and so when that happens, how do we work with other individuals to support them towards thriving, victorious cycles? But also when we're not feeling 100%, how do we support each other?
It's interesting because they say New Zealand's a growing population. But
and we are growing outwardly.
Sideways.
Sideways. Well, Māori and Pacific we are.
But unfortunately...
Shout out. And there's all kinds of reasons why that happens. I mean, we should do a whole podcast about that. You specialise now in Pacific nutrition.
Yeah.
I know because I forced you to do it last year. But that actually ties into financial capability in terms of what people can afford, which we'll talk a little bit later. But it's a whole different podcast. You've given me great ideas though.
All right. Into our next question. Did any personal experiences shape your decision to help others improve their mental or emotional health?
So here's the thing. When I used to work in acute mental health services, most of those patients were on the benefit because they weren't well enough to be able to hold down a job, which makes sense, right? That's why they were in the acute mental health unit. But unfortunately, and depending on what the mental illness is, it can be a struggle to be able to work.
Yeah.
I've worked with lots of people, for example, that have schizophrenia, bipolar, and depression. And the reality is for some, not all, for some, working isn't going to happen. And this happens for all kinds of reasons. Sometimes people might have audio hallucinations, for example, so it's hard to be able to focus on the task at hand if they're having
hearing voices.
Yeah, for example. Sometimes people are so depressed that they can't get out of bed. And the financial capability side came about because obviously not having money also then impacts on your state of wellness as well.
Yeah.
So if we took a step back, wealth, the origin of the word wealth, actually has its whakapapa, its origins in the word wellness. So wealth back then didn't actually mean rich. Wealth actually meant wellness. So I can't remember which country it is. It'll come to me. They measure their country's index on happiness. We measure our index.
GDP?
Yeah. Right? On wealth. But I think it might be Bhutan. I'm pretty sure it's Bhutan.
Asia? No.
Yes.
All right.
In Bhutan, they measure their index on happiness. Now, that's an interesting way of looking at, how do we measure people's order, people's well-being. So for a lot of the guys and women that I'm working with they were on benefits and they were struggling and it triggered their unwellness. And I was really interested in, how do we work with like budgeting services as it was known at that time and to be able to work with what people have got. With people that have got addictions, for example, I've often said with our smokers, great budgeters. Yeah. Because they always budget enough money for their cigarettes. Cigarettes aren't cheap now. They're like $35, $40 a packet. So they're not cheap.
Tax has increased on them.
You can thank me and my colleagues for the smoke-free work that we've done over many, many years. But that being said, so if you think about all those little things, that contribute towards unwellness, that was one of the things I was interested in as a mental health and addictions clinician, but also recognizing that in that space, it's a very specialized field and none of my colleagues were really interested in exploring it.
Well, because it probably didn't make sense. I guess we're all working still currently in silos. So it'd be interesting, why is the addictions clinician we're trying to work in finance?
Yeah.
I guess other people would struggle to see the connection there. But
that's right.
You explained it well.
And I also think I had really good relationships with my guys. So in being able to say, actually, what is your financial status like? Because if you can't afford the basics, then, we can't look at your long-term plan if you're in survival mode, right now. So I actually saw learning about budgets and financial capability and financial literacy, because they're very different concepts.
Right.
Absolutely vital for the work that we do in the addiction sector.
What challenges or struggles have you faced that made you want to make a difference in your own life or the lives of others?
Well, to be honest, so we're talking about financial capability, but I guess for me is that I'm a saver, not a, sorry, wrong. I a liar. That's what I am. I am a spender. Let's rewind. I am a spender, not a saver. I'm fine with that.
Because you have income to back that.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that I have income to be able to do it. And so therefore I'm able to live a life that I'm happy with. Sorry, do you mind if I just have a quick drink of my Sprite Zero? We're not being funded by them, by the way.
I was like, I don't know if we can mention their names, but, well, you can edit it out.
So, yes, but I've got, different forms of income and revenue to, help me. And then that money is also used for all the voluntary work that I do, like across the country. However, the reality is for some of our whānau, they don't have.
It can be very tough. I mean, you took all the qualifications. So.
well, like you, right? I mean, you don't have 32, you've got 10, but you're not that far away from it, and you're only 24, so you might actually end up.
Who knows?
but every one of those quals has enabled me to be able to work in different
areas.
Yeah.
I guess back to that conversation about, well, it makes sense now. You're doing addictions practice and now finance.
Yeah.
And then combining the two.
Yeah, I think so. But then even doing things like, like I did a business course in my early 20s. So then when I did my addictions and counseling practice, I could work for myself. I did a couple of accounting courses, failed, got myself an accountant instead. Well, actually, I passed, but I was like, no, this is too hard.
Right.
So I did all these different things to kind of set myself up. What was the question? I just feel like we've gone slightly off track.
No dramas. It was just about the challenge or struggles you faced.
Yes. And so one of the struggles that I had is intergenerational poverty. Now, this is not being disrespectful to my family, but on my Māori side, their land got confiscated from them. So, economic wealth that would have been generated from that land was taken away.
Right. And New Zealand Māori only have how much land?
It's less than 10%.
10%, eh?
So, when sometimes people in a racist way say, things about land and bloody Māori.
Yeah.
You're lazy and all that stuff. I say to them, imagine that you had your own land and that someone who has no connection took your economic wealth away
and decided to sell it.
Decided to sell it against your wishes. You've gone from being in your own house and moved into the garage, and then now you've been evicted from the garage and now you live on the road.
Right.
That's how I think about my Māori side and their economic wealth.
And that's where it starts, and then how are you going to
absolutely. So then our baseline in terms of what we earn and our potential is significantly more reduced than our other non-Māori counterparts. And on my European side, my Pākehā side, I would say that my mum worked, 3 or 4 jobs to make ends meet when my parents separated. So, we were living on the breadline. And I think my mum tried the best with what she could. But what we know is that you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And so for a long time, my practice growing up was that I thought that it was normal to have zero in my bank balance. If I had anything, I would always spend it so that I had nothing and then wait for my next pay week. I did a post on my Facebook. I worked for a place called Georgie Pie.
Oh, yeah. I missed out on that when they came back.
And we had youth rates, which don't exist now.
What's that?
So if you were under 16 years of age, you earned lesser than the adult equivalent of your role.
Wow.
So I was on $5.25 an hour. And a combo, so you get like a steak and cheese pie, a chips, and a drink with $5. So basically I was earning a combo an hour.
That's a combo? A steak and cheese pie with what, fries? Wow.
Okay, you focus more on the food than my hourly rate. Typical Sione listeners. Typical Sione.
Oh my God.
Focus. But what I'm saying to you is that, I was earning a combo an hour, and even then I knew that I had so much more potential.
How old were you at the time?
16.
Oh.
15, 16 years old is when I started.
It'd be interesting in seeing what the current generation sort of thinks in terms of potential-wise.
Yeah, well, like I said, minimum wage doesn't exist now. And I think what's the average is above $20 an hour.
I think we still do have minimum wage. I think minimum is now 21 something. 22 something.
And back in my day, adjusting to inflation, that would have been a huge amount of money. But now, a $20 note I think a $20 note is the equivalent of a $5 note. Then,
yeah.
So how do we work towards sustaining ourselves so that we're, financially sound now and heading towards retirement? But then also, what can we pass on to other people, whether it be our clients, our family members, our friends, to help them also become financially sound? And that's why I specialized in financial capability within the different roles that I had. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Thank you.
When did you realize how important well-being is for living a balanced and fulfilling life?
In relation to money?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess for me, it's basic things like, at my doctor's, it's $55.
Oh, yeah, bloody hell.
Right? But can I say to you that I don't complain because I'm now in a position where I can afford it. And my doctors, I don't have, I can just go straight in. So I book an appointment. I don't have to wait. If my appointment's at 11:30, my doctor's there at 11:30.
Yeah.
When I was a student, we'd have to wait for doctors. I could literally wait for up to 4 hours before I could see a GP. At that stage, a GP had there were like 3 GPs and you first in, first served.
Yeah.
But it could take up to 4 hours. And I remember, and it was $10, which I thought was cheap. But I look back and I'm like, I can't afford to wait 3 or 4 hours. That's not a possibility. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think people forget it's not up to the poor receptionist that sits there that decides the prices, and people kind of just throw their head at them.
Yeah.
Or the doctors themselves, and I'm just like,
absolutely,
it's not them who gets to decide the prices here.
Yeah, so money gives me options, right? Allows me to go see a doctor based on my terms. Medical options. So, some medications, most medications, as you know, are fully funded. Yeah. Or heavily discounted. Then there are other medications that aren't subsidised by Pharmac.
Yeah.
So Pharmac is the one that hosts and advocates for certain medications to be funded.
It's interesting how there's only one person, sort of one.
Yeah, like a bit of a monopoly.
Exactly. I'm like, that's it.
Yeah, it's
government. What's going on here, man?
Yeah, I can't remember the rationale, but I think it's because our health system is funded at this point. It's almost like we try not to get ourselves into a position similar to, say, the States, for example, where they're heavily, doctors and medical professions are heavily influenced by pharmaceuticals. If we've already got ones that are set out, then we don't have to, there's no particular...
okay. So it's not good to have more than one.
Well, no, what I'm saying is that there are certain medications a range of medications that are available, but Pharmac is the one that gets to decide, and so then it cuts out this kind of thing in the States, for example, where doctors get paid by pharmaceutical companies.
I see.
Through gifts and or other ways that they only then refer to one medication, whereas in this case, we've got Pharmac that says, look, here are your range of medications that are available, pick. And so for me, sometimes I've been in situations where I've had to pay for medication that's not subsidised by Pharmac, and at least I'm in a position to be able to do that.
Also, there's power to the consumer, is that what you're saying?
No, there's power to the consumers if you're in a financial position to be able to do it. But this took years.
Yeah.
Right? This wasn't a straight away kind of thing. This took years to be able to master. Another example is because I do travel outside of AUT, between 800 to 1,000 kilometres a week.
Gas ain't cheap.
Gas is not cheap. I could spend $500 to $700 easy, not including car repairs. So being able to work with our bros in particular, our brothers affected by mental health, sexual abuse, and addictions. So financial capability is a great way to be able to how me to believe it or not, set a budget, save, and then, when needed, accessing that money.
Yeah.
Quick example, I had a flat tire. You know this because you were there.
Oh, yeah, I was there.
I had a flat tire, and my insurance lapsed, which is my bad because I was looking at getting another car at the time.
Right.
So I had to pay $1,200 to get a tow truck to come and take the car, replace the wheel, so on and so forth. If I hadn't practiced financial capability, I wouldn't have been able to
get that done.
Yeah. So there are benefits.
Insurance is important.
Yeah. Which we can pick up as one of the topics as part of the series.
Yeah.
What values or principles are you hoping to cultivate with people regarding financial capability?
So with my clients that I work with who've got mental health challenges, addictions, or working through sexual violence trauma, when it comes to financial capability, it's about creating a new relationship. Actually, brother, I always think that money in itself is having a relationship because it gives you options. So one of the reasons that I do voluntary isn't because I'm a good person. I'd love to say that that's true. I'm not. I'm a terrible person. But, the reason that I volunteer is because many of our bros can't afford it. They don't trust ACC, they don't trust government services, and they don't trust...
It's tough.
Yeah, yes, some social services. So one of the things that I work with them on is, look, I'm happy to work with you, but I also need you to make some significant changes, not only towards your emotional and intellectual well-being, but to your financial well-being too, so that you can put yourselves in a position where you can afford to have other options, right? So that for some of our guys, for example, it might be, do I have enough money in the gas to make it to see me?
Right.
I was talking to a guy yesterday who had $20 to survive for the next 2 weeks. My preference is to see people face to face. I will do help. I will talk to them on the phone, which is called a helpline kind of approach, because you're actually helping them on the phone line. However, my preference is always face to face. And I'm also mindful that I'm not comfortable going to other people's houses. Actually, sometimes people are going to go outside of their environment, or they might be in a position where they can't share. So, we do meet in different buildings or different settings, across the country that I've been able to work with different community organisations with. But I'm always clear about, what else is happening. So, for example, I might do a range of assessments. Make a note of this. We make we do our normal drug and alcohol assessments. And then I might also ask them questions about their financial situation. If you truly want to know what your relationship is like with money, you have to print out your bank statements and have a look at what you spend.
Right.
Because you can tell yourself till the cows come home that you're great with money, but your bank statements will tell you the absolute truth.
TAB receipts.
Well, that's part of it, or it might be food and drink. If you looked at mine, it would be probably gas. There would be bakeries, because I don't eat set food, because I travel across.
I was a busy man sometimes.
Yeah.
Food for yourself.
Well, if I could, I'd stay on OptiFast shakes, which is my preference, but I can't lumber my Ninja with me. And some drives are an hour to 2 hours, so if I had frozen fruit with me, that it would melt. So, all those things, so I just kind of stick to sandwiches. So, but that's one of the things that I do anyway, is we look at our bank balances and we make a note of what we're spending on. The other thing that I also tell people in terms of being able to help them think about their own financial capability relationship is get yourself a notebook. Not an app, it's actually easier to do it with a notebook, and make a note of what you're spending every day for a week.
Right, a diary.
I mean, yes, if that's what you want to call it, a diary, but either which way, then look at it throughout the week, and what you'll see is that there are certain patterns of behaviour that you will do, and then the week after I ask them to put their emotions. So is it a smiley face, is it a sad face, is it a neutral face as you're spending?
Right.
So some people spend money when they're happy, some spend it when they're sad, some do it when it's both. It can look like a bit of a roller coaster. So that's a way of kind of tracking where people are at.
So you can't say people spend more when they're upset or when they're happy?
No, because everyone's individual like a thumbprint. And so it's kind of working with people to understand what's the state of mind that you're in as you were spending.
Right.
I'll give you an example. So for me, I love second-hand shopping, and I love antiques. And to be quite honest with you, if I won Lotto, I'd buy myself the biggest house because I can be a hoarder. That's one of my own weaknesses. I've got to be very careful what I get.
Right.
But when I'm happy, absolutely I'll spend. And when I'm sad, I tend to spend money at restaurants. I think and order like an extra entree.
Yeah.
So, but one of the things I've also learned is, when I'm doing these things, asking myself, what's a want? What's a need? In other words, do I want it or do I need it? And those are very different ways. And I do ask myself that.
Is the value here to be frugal, or is it to be...
No, because some people are naturally more frugal than others. It's to be more aware.
Oh, right.
It's more to awareness. Be more aware. My grandparents' generation, for example, they saved everything.
Yeah.
Because often they had nothing. And then they would also stock up. My mum stocks up.
Oh, are you saying sometimes things are just inherited?
Yeah, I think so. I'll give you an example. Do you remember when COVID came and people were stocking up on toilet paper?
Yeah.
That was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
They used to fight over it.
They fought over toilet paper.
Yeah.
Out of all the necessities,
it
was toilet paper, apparently. Now, for the war generation, it made sense because things were low. But today, there's just no... It's a evolutionary thing, you kind of panic. And so you kind of think, how's this little luxury going to impact?
Right.
Anyway, and so from that perspective, it's interesting to kind of see people's behaviours. But my mum stocks up on things like baked beans, spaghetti. Rather than having like 3 or 4 cans, she might have maybe 9.
Oh.
Preparing
for...
Yeah, well, preparing for war, I guess.
Hey, nice.
But it's only me and Mum at home, right? So I'm like, Mum, I'm not going to make my way through 9 cans of baked beans.
Yeah.
But it's a learnt behaviour, and so sometimes, the whole point anyway of having a diary or your bank balance is to understand what are the patterns of behaviour that you're being presented with.
It'll be a lot tougher for, I guess, kids of parents with the benefit, and I guess just that behaviour just being passed down.
It's hard. So here's the thing, and you haven't asked me this, but I'm just going to say it. I'm for the benefit short term. For most New Zealanders, I better insert a little legal disclosure.
Yeah.
So for people who are mentally unwell, say for those who are, say, schizophrenia, bipolar, and can't work, don't want to work, it's literally difficult. Can't, right? I get that. I have no issue with, as a taxpayer, to support people like that. Actually, we should.
Right.
As good as New Zealand citizens. Because I've worked with enough people to know it's not, they really try.
Yeah.
They really, really try.
It just looks different to the average eye.
Yeah. Right, so they try. But I think that we should be giving them sickness.
Chances.
No, sickness benefits. We should be giving them to them, right? Yep. We're going to go off track, so I better keep me on track. However, for people who don't have a mental illness, they don't have some kind of a long-term impairment or disability, I absolutely think that the benefit should be short-term. And short-term should be defined at no more than 6 months.
I think current one is 12 months.
I think that's too long.
Right, okay.
One other thing, I did some research a couple of years ago where we were interested in understanding intergenerational families on the benefit. So the point wasn't to judge, it was just to understand what do we know and not know about people that are on the benefit. And one of the things that came up was that families think of it as the norm to go, to pass on their knowledge of going on the benefit, waiting for their child to turn 16, I think it is, 16, 17, and then sign them up for the benefit. And as a researcher, we interviewed a couple of families where it was the great-grandmother, the grandmother, the mother, the daughter. So there was like a rite of passage. They saw it as their right to sign up for the benefit. They weren't interested in working because they were getting, essentially they called it free money.
Right.
That's where I have an issue. So when we look at those patterns of behaviour, this is learnt.
Right.
Working is something that's a bit scary. For some of the guys that I work with, like if they've been on the benefit for say 10 years, and the idea of working is a scary thing. So, and yet they want to get ahead financially. So that's the motivator. They want to get a house. They want to buy a car. They might want to go to the dentist. That's often something that comes up as well. But they're just not in a financial position to be able to do it. So they have to push beyond their comfort levels of being, to me, I call it codependency with the benefit.
Like a drug.
It's such a hard topic, and it's a loaded topic. So, right, so to be clear, I'm not bashing people that are on the benefit.
Yeah.
But I am saying it creates codependency where people become dependent on. And it's hard, actually, because even when I'm just thinking about this out loud, even when some of my guys are transitioning out from benefit to getting a job, there's a threshold of how much you can earn before your benefit gets taken away. So just when they get their head above water, the benefit gets taken away, and then they kind of sink, and it's really hard. So my preference is prevention, and in fact I would treat that like any kind of public health challenge, is that prevention is better than cure. So in other words, how can we support our kids to make decisions that aren't going to land them on the benefit? Gosh, we've gone off on a completely different topic. Education, and also options, So yes, I get it. There's been 3 or 4 generations that are on the benefit, and I'm not opposed to it. But how can we break those cycles so that we're not depending on government welfare and start generating our own wealth?
There'll be a lot less strain on the New Zealand economy.
But also a strain on people's less of a strain on people's wellness.
Yes.
One of the things that, and you know this because I've been working with you on your financial capability, you weren't on a benefit, as far as I know. You were working.
Student allowance.
But you were studying though, right, at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So you were so you've taken out a loan, but you also know that at some point, you did sport and rec. What a terrible example. Terrible.
I was
let's focus on a real job. Let's focus on a real job, eh?
All right.
But no, seriously, but you were studying, and then at some point you then were able to apply for jobs, make an income,
right,
which then gives you options. And that's what I'm interested in working with people. As you can tell, I'm a pretty hard person, but then I have high expectations. I sometimes think that while the benefit is designed to look after a short term, it shouldn't be a long term options. And I see a lot of Māori and Pacific being disempowered by it. I'm just going to say it, and it does us no favours long term.
Right.
The average income, and I'm happy to be corrected, I think on the benefit is $27,000 a year. The medium income in this country is between 45 and 52,000, right? So you're actually earning half of what the median New Zealander earns. And if you're physically able, I'm talking able, right? So this is the key word. Physically able to do it, you should actually be looking at other ways of getting ahead.
Because it's a wasted opportunity.
Well, I just think that you've got, yes, and I also think, but hey, get out there and push yourself.
There's more to life then.
Yes, well, but even then, and I guess from a sociological lens, there's lots of complex factors that are involved. But going back to the initial question, which looks at valuables and principles, is how do we have a relationship with money? And for some people, they avoid. For some people, like myself, it's about spending, and for other people, it's about actually saving. So, I look at a more nuanced or balanced approach. So that money isn't a scary thing, but it also isn't something that we should be that we should take lightly either.
I guess that might be the second or third topic that's hard to talk about.
I think so.
Money, which is interesting.
Well, put it this way: within our work around domestic violence in the county's Manukau area, something like 80% of call-outs is because of money-related issues.
Yeah.
Imagine if we could bring that down and what flow-on effects that might have, to the well-being of our whānau families and ainga.
Why do you think mental and emotional wellness is essential for building resilience and creating positive change?
Yeah. Skip that question.
Was there a specific moment that sparked your passion for focusing on financial capability?
Yes, there was. I was doing a mental health assessment in my late 20s, early 30s, and I realised that we kept coming back to the same issue again and again, which was that this guy had no money. When I did an assessment around his smoking cigarettes, we identified that he... do calculations about that. I think it was $27.50. So he was doing a packet a day, so round that up to 30.
My calculator is somewhere.
No, that's okay. Say he was spending $210 a week on just cigarettes. Right, so we take the $10 out and we say 200 times 4, that's 800. So he's spending $800 of, like, literally up in the year. Now, was this a working class man, or was he a businessman? No, he was someone that was on the benefit.
I see. That's a tough one.
Right. So, but again, I don't want to look like I'm coming across as benefit bashing. I'm not, but but we knew that he was spending roughly about $200, so a significant amount of money on just cigarettes. What money he then had, he was just scraping through paying for his rent, and he had very little money for food. So whether he liked it or not, we then had to address some of his stuff around his smoking behaviour. And one of the things that I'm all about is a harm reduction approach. So in the addiction sector, we have things called abstinence, which is when you quit something on the spot, or harm reduction. And sometimes we get people in our sector that take it on one side or the other.
And then there's some that say that's they're one of the same.
Yeah, well, harm reduction.
Interesting perspective. The first time I heard that one.
Only those that go to uni can believe that. But we go to AUT, my friend. So no, kidding. So harm reduction is when you look at maybe halving something, and then gradually reduce it down. So as a quick example, when I was working in an addiction service, and I don't do this as much now. Let's say someone's drinking, say, a box a day, a box of alcohol, so it might be 12 bottles. What we'll look at doing is gradually reducing it, so we might do it by half, so that they have 6, and then 6 down to 2, and then look at whether they want to go 0, or stay so that it starts becoming something that's an addiction and just becomes more of a social thing. Cigarettes, for example, is the same principle, except that by the time you get to half a packet of cigarettes,
they start valuing.
Yeah, so and then down to 5, and then I say from 5 to 0. Otherwise, they start treating that each cigarette like a lover that they just want to stay with all the time.
It builds up again, doesn't it?
Well, this is where I think abstinence then becomes important, so that you stop. But then by then, we're also working towards key strategies to helping them to stay smoke free, and then looking at how can we use financial capability as a way of motivating them. So with that guy, for example, he went from saying $200, so he had to half, so he spent half, so he had $100 extra that he didn't have before, which meant that he could afford to buy himself food that he wasn't spending. Then we were able to give him NRT, so nicotine replacement therapy, like patches and lozenges and gum, which was $5 a month at the time. So then he was able to go from a packet a day to half a packet. Then using a harm reduction approach, we got him down to a packet a week. And then we set a date where he'd just go smoke free, which he was able to do for 6 months.
Wow.
When he was able to do it for 6 months, he was able to save $800 a month.
Nice.
Or $4,000. Or just over 4,000, maybe $5,000.
A lot of pocket money.
Yeah, and so then he was able to buy himself a car, because so he got the extra income. It was a $2,000 or $3,000 car, which meant that he was able then to, travel, which meant he was able to go for a job, and then slowly but surely he got his confidence up.
Nice.
We worked with his mental health, his mental wellbeing challenges, and the last time that I heard, he's, doing this thing. So I think he went back to smoking. For me, I'm always about we just keep trying. We work it with people
and never giving up.
Yeah, and like I said, and for some people, people are motivated by different things, but that was his motivation, to get ahead.
Nice.
So yeah, it was that was the guy that made me think about financial capability. Yeah.
I think for me, you're probably a good example of one. So
yeah.
I'll be pursuing that field at some point.
I think that we should be, but then I'm clear though that we shouldn't just stick within one field, because when it comes to addictions and mental health, it's complex. The other specialists I'm talking about, like suicide prevention, that goes into addictions and mental health. Financial capability certainly goes in the stuff. When I was working, we could do another podcast on when I was working at the Retirement Commission. So how do we prepare New Zealanders to get ahead so that by the time they retire at 65, they've got a little nest egg? In my head, I kept thinking, and how do we support people with disabilities? How do we support people with mental health challenges who aren't, working full time, so that for many of them that do make it to 65, how do we ensure that they've got a life that they can live
with respect?
With options, dignity, right? And dignity, and even when I worked at places like Good Shepherd, for example, it was things like microloans, which we'll discuss at another podcast. How do we help people get out of debt with zero interest? All that stuff is fascinating.
And it'll come in a later podcast.
Yeah, totally. In fact, we could probably do one podcast per topic. So
I bet.
Awesome. Thanks for giving me more work to do, Sione. I appreciate it.
How do you believe prioritizing financial capability can improve the lives of individuals and communities?
Oh, I think it can extend lives. I think, yep. Here's the thing. When we talk about prioritizations, it's all about what's happening in that person's life. And for some people, money's the last thing that they want to deal with. But yet often that might be the most important thing for them to, to focus on. So recently I've worked with a family that's had black mould where they're living. So it's affecting their 2 children. And so we've had to really kind of work on setting a budget to help them to move out, because that house is making them sick. Very, very, very sick. Then
isn't that the responsibility of the tenant or the
landlord?
The landlord?
Totally, assuming that the landlord wants to.
I see.
Right? They don't want to challenge it because they don't want to get kicked out. So they decided, and this is what I mean, whether you have money or not money, it limits options or gives you options, right? So at this stage, all we're looking at doing is saving what money we can. Looking at how we can make small changes. So, small meaningful changes, and then looking at what can we do within 6 months so that we can get you out. So next week, they've been able to get a different house.
Nice.
They've got themselves a bond. That house doesn't have black mould. They're going to move out. But that's been a long-term goal for them. But it's a good example of how small changes can make big differences, giving us options.
Speaking of small changes, I've once I signed off to this new position, I went back to 10%.
For your KiwiSaver?
Yeah, on the last podcast, the one we did, I was on, where was I? 3%.
Right.
Yeah. So it went from 10 to 3, and then now back up to 10 again.
Well, you started on 3% part-time, right?
Yes, before.
And you've said this publicly, you had about $1,000.
Yeah.
Good on you.
Yeah.
But you've noticed a sizable shift.
Yeah, it's grown completely.
Great.
Almost. Definitely above 10k.
Good.
But I noticed there was a slight decline. But apparently that's normal in KiwiSaver.
So at some point we'll do a podcast on KiwiSaver.
Yeah.
So when you say 10k, how long did it take you to do 10k?
Less than a year.
Yeah. Right, for 10%. So you're a perfect example. So you turned 25 this year?
Yeah.
So if you imagine, so it's all about habits and behaviour changes. So at some point, that will then become your norm. So it will be the norm for you to put 10% away on KiwiSaver. For an older generation such as myself, the shift from 3% to 10% can be significant, especially if you've got add-on additions. But for you, that will be your norm.
Yeah.
So then you adjust your pay accordingly. So, it's a good example of when I had a student loan. I think I was paying either $350 or $400 every fortnight to pay off my student loan. And then, as you know, I worked 3 jobs and paid that off in 2 years. Then, because I was already accustomed to having $350 taken out of my pay, I just put that into savings.
Right.
Because it was already getting taken out, so I'd already adjusted. So I had to tell myself, that's not extra money in my account, just had to give it. So what I talk about is give every dollar that you earn a job, and its job is to get you ahead. Interest is bringing more friends.
Depends. Either friends or enemies.
Well, it depends. But, when you think about things like savings is interest that's earned on your money, which means that you're bringing more friends to help you to earn more money. Yeah.
Interesting. Oh, yes, and I think for me it's just retirement with the whole KiwiSaver thing. So, a home ownership is...
why not?
Possibly be the option.
I mean, that could certainly be possible outside of Auckland, unless you're going to go into partnership with someone else.
Right.
I'm looking at, so for me personally, I couldn't afford to buy a mortgage in Auckland. The average price is $1 million.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. I refuse to spend the rest of my life paying off a house. However, down in Waikato area, houses of similar ilk, 300,000 to 400,000. So actually, I could probably pay that off within 10 years if I worked really hard.
Yeah.
If I won lotto, it'd be less. But but
wishful thinking.
But outside the wishful thinking, I know that I could pay that off. And like I said, having a home, which was considered the norm, is now becoming lesser and lesser to, for many New Zealanders. So, we have to kind of think in diverse ways to get ahead, which we'll explore, at other podcasts. Yeah.
What impact does financial capability have on people's well-being and the well-being of those around them?
Yeah. Is that the final question?
No.
As I've just discussed with you before, significant impacts. So reductions in mental health, reductions in suicide, reductions in addictions, increased family wellness, for example. Reductions in, I think I might have said, violence. So, getting ahead financially isn't just about helping your wallet out, but for many people in this country, and focusing on Māori and Pacific, it can make a significant difference to your overall whole health for
and
you
and
the collective and future generations. We haven't even talked about Pacific values around things like whālawe.
Oh yeah, that'd be another topic.
You know what I mean? Or looking at it within a Tongan perspective. And actually, how do we support families in the islands, but also ourselves? And how do we do it without having to get huge debts with huge interests that are associated with it?
Yeah, the big risks.
Yeah, and so let's tackle some of those conversations. We might get in our brother Nigel.
Yeah.
To look at it from a Samoan perspective, you look at it from a Tongan perspective. And I'll look at it from a Māori perspective, yeah?
Yeah.
Sound good?
On to our final question. What are your personal goals when it comes to nurturing your own financial capability?
Pay my IRD.
All right.
2 things. I'd like to have a house. Probably look at getting a mortgage maybe in the next year or so.
Oh, okay.
Because I've got different health challenges, like, reaching 65, I'm not sure if I'm going to make it. It would be nice to have, but I'm also a realist.
Yeah.
So to me, I went from, say, being in a position where I had 0 in my account for many years. Then I set a goal of having a minimum of $1,000 after I paid off everything. My current goals is I try to have a minimum of $5,000 in my account. If I go under, I slightly panic. But the point is that I want options.
Yeah.
So sometimes some of my bros might ring me and they're asking for some financial help. I like the idea of being able to help, but not all the time. Right? I am not an ATM.
Yeah.
And I'm also very selective with who I give money to.
Yeah.
can I also say, just thinking just randomly, if you also want to know the people's true personalities, don't pay them back on time and just see what happens. You know, I've seen money be quite divisive on lots of levels. So for me, I don't want to be in a position where I ever have to borrow. Right. So those are some of the goals that I have, and I look forward to kind of exploring that in more details later on.
More podcasts to come.
Yeah.
I think we'll end it off there.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of standingtallnz.org.